Hi, assalamualaikum and a very good day. Today we're going to do a presentation on our group assignment for data science and application. Our title is Correlation between Death Rates and Life Expectancy by Sex and Race. Here's our table of content for our presentation today. And these are our team members, Hafiz, Aina, Mariam, and me, Fariza. Starting with the project background, for this project, we have chosen the data of two different races, which are black and white people from both genders, male and female, on their death rate and life expectancy from the year 1900 to 2018 in the US. As you all know, the government of the US does not provide any universal health care to its citizens. With that being said, many people in the US are depending on private insurance for their healthcare, since healthcare in the state is expensive. Next. There is an estimated number of 30 million people in the US that are not covered by health insurance in 2021. So we can conclude that different incomes and status levels in the community contribute to different access to healthcare. Not only that, lifestyle behaviors and biological factors are also the factors that affect the death rate and life expectancy. But however, we expected that both races will have the same relationship between death rates and life expectancy because they mainly share the same lifestyles. In order to find out, we perform the dataset we obtained from data.gov on outbreaks to do the analysis. So here's our problem statement. First, is there any significant correlation between death rates and life expectancy among different demographic groups, particularly in relation to sex and race? Next, what are the potential underlying factors under sex and race that may affect Americans' life expectancy? Next, who will be the targeted organization in charge of reducing the death rate and improving overall population health in the US? Lastly, how correlation between death rates and life expectancy by sex and race is able to address health inequities and promote health equity.
So for the first objective, we want to examine the death rates and life expectancy for various racial and gender groups. Next, we want to examine the relationship between death rates and life expectancy. For the third objective, we want to identify potential causes contributing to Americans' life expectancy. And the last objective is we want to provide recommendations for reducing health inequalities.
Okay, so for our project scope, we compare the average life expectancy and death rate among black and white and both racial and gender group from 1900 to 2018, and then the existence of major variation in health outcome between the different demographic categories. And also our project goals is include the finding any major disparity that may exist, identifying the primary causes of this disparity, and informing evidence-based action policies to improve health equalities. Next. Next, our literature study. We study the life expectancy, which is the number of years they anticipate to live given their current age, and also the average life expectancy in US is 78.7 years. And also the death rate, which is the measurement of the number of fatalities within the given population, and the main cause of death in US is heart disease and also cancer. Next, which is the variation life expectancy by sex are the cause of link between the life expectancy and death rate. This is due to the fact that globally women frequently outlive men. Next is which is racial inequalities in life expectancy refer to the difference in average lifespan among individuals of different racial and ethnic grouping. One of the reasons for this disparity is systemic racism. And lastly, when race and sex are taken into account, this disparity much more noticeable. For instance, due to the interaction of this factor, black men in United States have the lowest life expectancy among the major demographic groups. Next.
For the description of methodology, first we decide on the topic and the problem statement, and then we proceed with the data collection where we get the data, our data set at the data.gov, and then we start with the data analysis. We use the attributes to calculate the correlation between death rate and life expectancy. By using the matrix, we also can cleanse the data from the error and from having the null values in the result. And then we measure the strength of the correlation between our variables by using the matrix. After that, we proceed with the data visualization. We use W to visualize our data. We add connection, which is our data set. We create the calculated field, and then we change the title into correlation death rate versus life expectancy by sex and races for our table. For the scatter plot, we put the variables which are life expectancy into the column parts and death rate into the row part. We also add the trend line into the plot. To differentiate the sexes and races, we drag the variables to the color part so that the color will be different for each sex and race. For the bar graph, we put the variables which are sex and life expectancy to the column parts and race and death rates into the row parts. The same method is applied to differentiate the sexes and races for the bar graph.
Okay, so for the result, in this figure 1, as you guys can see, this is the arterial overflow. There is a strong negative correlation between life expectancy and death rate, which is negative 0.878169. The closer the value approach to 1, the stronger the correlation. Next, the value 1 indicates a perfectly positive linear correlation between two variables as it is just the same two variables. In this figure 2, this is the correlation between death rate and life expectancy by different race and size that we get from Tableau. Although all the values in the table indicate a strong negative correlation between death rates versus life expectancy by race and sex, since all the values are approaching the value of -1. This indicates that life expectancy increases while death rates in the US decrease, no matter what the person's sexes and races are. Next. In this figure 3, this is the scatter plot for correlation between death rates versus life expectancy, and it shows a negative trend. In other words, the variable death rates and the variable life expectancy have a strong negative correlation. In this figure 4, this is the scatter plot for correlation between death rates and life expectancy by sex, and it shows a negative trend and strong negative correlation. This means the correlation between life expectancy and death rate in the US will remain negative even if it is affected by both sexes which are female and male. Next, for figure 5, this is the scatter plot for correlation between death rates and life expectancy by race. And this scatter plot shows a negative trend and strong negative correlation. This means the correlation between life expectancy and death rate in the US will remain negative even if it is affected by both races, which are black and white people. And for the last figure, which is figure 6, this is the bar graph between death rate and life expectancy by different races and sexes. We can see that black people have a higher death rate and longer average life expectancy compared to white people. We also observe that male population in both black and white races has a higher death rate compared to female population in the races. So we can conclude that the strong negative correlation between life expectancy and death rate will remain constant even for different races and sexes. Next.
To conclude our presentation today, there are significant correlations between death rates and life expectancy by sex and race. We found that men tended to have higher death rates and lower life expectancy compared to women because of their lifestyle, which majority of men do drugs, smoking, and also drinking. We also found that black people tend to have higher death rate and lower life expectancy compared to white people because majority of the black people in the US are being discriminated, and this makes difficult for them to have access to the healthcare. We hope that our finding can help the public health organization to promote health equality, improve overall health outcomes, and reduce the rate for the public. That's all from us. Thank you.